So, good evening and welcome. It's time for a bit of a surprise. So, we are having Dayah, our admin, here with me as well. And she has played actually more of these games than I have, so.
Good evening, good evening. Nice to see you guys. It's been for a while, but it's nice to be back. And at least Kaleon was really impressed by our starting music. I think it's a nice twist to have that at the beginning of the night we are having tonight. So let's start. 50-50s.
Yeah, 50-50s, and we are starting with the normal speed ones. We are starting with the normal speed ones and having one session of those, and then I think we'll go for a session of turbos after a small break.
Good evening, everyone. Kilfufan looking so professional. Are you talking about me, perhaps? Hope so. Well, Arni's always so professional. He's been doing this for a while. But there is a new guy in the house. Hello to you, Skyphosis. Where are you from? Welcome to our forum and our live night. Usually there is only one master in the house, but I was asked to come to follow this evening since I've been playing these for a while. Like Arni said, I have more experience about these games, but it's been a while since I've been playing this in the last time. So I have to admit that there might be some new tricks going on that I'm not familiar with, but we'll see.
I don't think that these games have changed that much, so I'm thinking that you will be fine and would still be fine in the tables, especially in the normal speed games, as they seem to be a lot better than the turbos. But they are not running as much. But I'm not seeing a lot of regs on the tables, and that's something that's really, really good.
So you have two tables of $3.50 and two $7 games.
I have registered to pretty much everything that should be starting, but we'll see. We'll see what starts. And I was trying to adjust the webcam, but it just can't stay straight, so what can you do? What can you do? Here with the flush draw, and we have one guy checking to us. It's not even that dry of a flop, even though the flop is paired, because there are plenty of draws for opponents that have just called. Pocket eights, I'm just going to flat. Flat and pretty much play as a set mining. And in this case, like for set mining, a good general rule would be when you have been raised against, then when you are having about 20 times as much effectively, set mining makes a lot of sense. And here we opened ace-jack off. We are going for a c-bet as well. And in here, when it's going to be ace-king, then it's going to be pretty nasty for us. And in here, our bluffy c-bet turns into value. I always love when plan comes to life.
So it was your plan all along to hit the nuts on the turn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I cannot argue with that strategy. It seems to be working.
I think it's going to be a fine c-bet anyway, because there is going to be a lot that the loser guy will flat, especially in position. And when it's king 10 off, we wanna play it aggressively. We wanna know where we are.
Well, it is kind of surprising that there is some familiar names for you in these games, but there is always a possibility that they are familiar ones from higher stake and they have just hit a really bad run or just went to play on other games for a while.
I don't know. I have marked players from a lot of different games. And I'm still using the wrong database, so I don't have the database for the 50-50s. And I also, last year I did the challenge against Kuutossilli. That's on our forums, and I tried to chase Kuutossilli with $150 bankroll, so that's why I have played most of these 50-50s, or most of the stakes. And in these games, we will have some fun if we are having the largest stack when the bubble approaches, and we will not have fun if we are a medium stack on the bubble. When a guy opens from, even though he looks pretty tight, when he opens from small blind and we can play in position, I tend to flat a lot of hands and defend and trying to realize my equity. And actually I don't believe that our opponent will have anything on that flop, even though he looks tight. I think that his range is still going to be. And if he stops betting on the turn, then it's going to be a good spot for me to take it away. And when he bets twice, I'm thinking that it's going to be pretty likely that our opponent will have an ace here. And even though there will be some implied odds when our opponent will have an ace, but we are only having 4 outs to a straight, so it's going to hit so rarely that we don't, and we are not having enough stack left behind on the turn.
Colin is asking about that ace-jack hand you played previously, and you hit the nuts on the turn. If you hadn't hit that, what would you have done?
If I wouldn't have hit that, it depends on the run out. If our opponent is so loose as he is, I might go for a pot control and going for pot control as with a larger amount of hands. And over 3 times bet, I think that's something that is probably the hand that we can argue most with. And I'm having a lot of tables at the moment, so
I have to say that I really liked your race with the 4s on the table too, because otherwise if you just limp, which is okay-ish, it's just too obvious for everybody else who's even a little bit knowable about the game that you will have a small pair in your hand. And on the levels of 15-30, it's completely fine just to give it a normal race.
And Calleon said that in general, I would prefer defend by 3-betting with crap like ace, queen too often calling. Playability is just so weak. Yeah, we could have gone for a small 3-bet and 3-bet fold, so turning it into a bluff as well. I'm thinking that even though the playability is bad, it's still going to be profitable to defend. It's actually, especially when the antes hit, it's going to be really hard to not be profitable to defend against the min raise when there is going to be a loose opponent min raising. And now we are going to 3-bet for value. Value on this Verasuso. He opened before, so this seems to be his general sizing. So.
And a little bit about the structure of the 50-50 sitting goes. Basically there is 10 players starting and the game ends when there is only 5 players left. So it's kind of a double or nothing in the sense that you need to survive. You need to survive the bubble, and if you are going to be the top 5 players, you will get your buy-in back minus the rake. But with every 100 chips you'll have when the game ends, you will earn some extra bucks. And that's the main difference between the Duns, Double or Nothings, and 50-50s, that you need to be aware that the more money you'll gather, the more chips you'll have when the game ends, the more money you will get. So you will be concentrating on getting more and more chips. That was probably a bit weirdly explained, but anyways.
And there's Callian said that not much point in doing stop and go with ace-8 Imo in table 2. I just missed the guy's stack size completely, so that's why I did the weird stop and go. I didn't notice that we had only one opponent with 6 big blind stack size there. So that's completely my mistake. With jacks it's going to be strong enough. Strong enough against a general 3-bet.
That's for sure. And aces, there's no need to slow play when you have like 1,000 chips at that point. Just get it in, the villain will call anyway, and you'll be happy.
Skifosis, I'm not staying at this level. We have some $15 games that are off screen right now. So right now we are having about 10 tables running, so that we will see some late game in these games as well.
Yeah, jacks strong enough against aces. Well, at this game, I think it was correctly played. No worries. Just bad luck.
And now that our opponent shoves, now it's easy enough to see our opponent's stack size. So that's also a good point when our opponent just min-raised, and the min-raise is generally the raise that I'm expecting. So when I'm expecting that kind of raise size, it's easy to miss this complete stack sizes. And when I miss the stack sizes, I played a hand in an unoptimal way. So that's also one thing you should take in mind when you are playing, that when you can do it harder for your opponent to play correctly, you are usually making money on those situations.
And Kyberi, I have to admit that the only thing I'm interested in Super Bowl are the famous ads and delicious food. Otherwise, I don't even know who's playing there at the moment or when the game begins. So unfortunately, I don't have any opinion on that.
Yeah. I don't know who's playing, and that's about that. And with antes, I think the Queen Jack suited would be way better to shove, but without antes it goes. It's profitable to shove, for sure. I'm thinking it's just more profitable to min raise. But as there is no antes yet in these 50-50s.
Yeah, they are starting at 40/80.
Yeah. And without antes, I don't think it's going to be that good. I still think that it's going to be a profitable open, so it's going to be profitable to shove or profitable to min raise, but which one of those is better? I'm still thinking that a small open would be better there.
So please tell us who's playing in the Super Bowl. And who's winning, of course. If I bet sports, who should I be betting? But basically when the antes come, then you need to be even more aggressive than before, because then it's a good way to steal some nice pots.
Yeah, and in these games I think that the general opponent is not going to be aggressive enough. King 10 suited. It would be a shove with antes for sure. And in these games, that when you see that these are 10-player games, and there will at least be 6 players paying the antes at all the times, it means that when antes hit, it makes stealing a lot better. So stealing aggressively in position is a really nice way to increase your equity in 50-50s.
So Kauris is not interested in Super Bowl, that who wins or who loses. He just wants to see some tits. Well, I guess some people are waiting for that too. I don't know.
And like, how many years ago was it anyway?
The famous Nipplegate, you mean?
Yeah.
Way too many years ago. I don't even know who's the main performance or singer, or I think there's quite a few, but I don't know who's the biggest showman or showwoman there tonight.
And as you can see in these tables, we can pretty much on every table we can see that there are players that we like to play against. There are really loose players, and loose and passive players are pretty much the best players. And I think that in these games, the more there are regs and the more there are needed regs, the more should you be interested in being active in stealing. And in here, like, there are 3 reggy-looking players behind me that look to be really passive, so I'm going to open my stealing range even from hijack a lot. And we get 3-bet from the only guy that's looking loose behind us, so that's going to be a bit nasty. I still think that in general this is going to be a table that we are getting more folds when we are stealing, even with this guy, than in a general table. And Rajmoon, yeah, there will be weird bet size, and even in these games we have already seen that there are players that are opening something like for 3.5x pre-flop with pretty much any hand, so we have seen some weirdness for sure.
And for example, that Siren 0138, I was betting that he's having a medium-sized pocket pair when he's raising 10x on those levels on table 4, and surprisingly enough, he had 10s.
And here we are going to have a really nice situation when there are really 2 really loose players, and they are both just limping. And even though we don't have a great hand, we got a good enough hand to be shoving. And even if one of these guys calls and we are getting it, I think range against range we are getting about 50%-ish, even with our bad ace. But if there's going to be dead money in the pot, we are going to gain some equity there.
And that proves the point. If you get caught with 10-9 off, that's profitable way much.
Yeah, and I think that it's not even going to be like, and now I'm thinking about even 3-betting for a larger sizing, because this guy is playing with a mobile phone, and I think these guys that are playing with a mobile phone are usually apt to playing or paying a higher bet size as well, so that's something to take into account. And when he shoves, it's going to be an easy call. If he has 10 queen, then it's bad luck for us, but we got like great equity against his king jack suited. And that's one of those spots that there are going to be weird bet sizes. We are hitting an ace, but our kicker sucks, and now there's 2 queens, and when it's a 4-way pot, I'm thinking that it's going to be quite likely that we are either against a queen or 2 pair or And in here, we are not afraid of anything anymore. I don't even know how we got there. Too many tables, too many tables.
Yeah. And when there is a possibility that there is like everything else but the card that you are holding in the table 3, like there's 3 other players, if they have even 1 queen or 1 jack, it's pointless to just put dead money in the pot anymore.
Yeah, that's like probably the most horrible table that we can get with the ace-7 suited. And I think one of the mistakes that the starting players are making most often, that they are playing a weak ace. Like we completed with the ace, but we completed mainly with the suitedness value. So if we are hitting a flop with 2 hearts, we are always going to have a nut flush draw. So we have some runouts that we can play aggressively, and the hitting the ace is just going to be a bonus. And when we are hitting the ace, we are not going for broke all the time. And that's something that I see new players do a lot, that when they hit their ace, they are going for broke. And when they are going for broke with an ace, they are then faced with better aces a lot of the time, or 2-pair hands. And jacks, they are going to be the hand that it's probably never going to feel good when you are playing those. I think that when there is an UTG Open, we 3-bet. I'm thinking that it's going to be pretty nasty, even though he's a completely random player. And there are like plenty of options that practically, if we are betting there, we can't get any value out of the hand, like ace queen, ace king, but we are losing the maximum against better pocket pairs. I don't think that there are a lot of 10 combinations.
Was that your only option for pre-flop play?
I could have flatted as well, I think. That's a nasty sizing or nasty stack size, as we can't easily go for a shove, and going with a shove would be the easy option with pocket jacks, as we are having really good pre-flop equity, but half of the time on the flop we are having overcards. Now we got pretty lucky that we didn't hit any overcards. And when we got our opponent space to spew, he did. So it isn't necessarily even bad bluff for him, as I think generally people are, when they're checking the flop, they are giving way too much away. If they are checking the flop or check-backing the flop in position. But in this case, we check-backed with an idea that we are giving our opponent space to, like, if we are not getting value when we bet, and there will be some like protection that we are denying our opponent equity that he can have with an ace king, ace queen, ace jack, ace 9, that when he folds. But I think that when there are just 2 cards coming and there's 1 card per turn, then it's going to be way less likely that we are hitting an overcard on the following.
Yeah, probably I was just being too aggressive, because I was thinking that probably I would have just shoved. But that's me not liking to see any flops with jacks, because
this is actually something that we should have probably 3-bet. It's going to be strong enough against the button open for sure. And in here, we are having a great hand right now. We didn't have a great hand on the flop. We are having a great hand on the turn. And we are having the guy that plays with a mobile phone, so let's go for a big value.
Yeah, if he's a mobile player, probably he wouldn't get rid of his ace, even though it would be a small one. but unfortunately now he folded.
And Calleon said, I think versus Unknown we can see bet 10-10 to deuce flop. They will often play most pockets as nuts, and I would not be surprised to see action from ace-queen type of hand. I think that's going to be something that was pretty close for me as well. I thought that it's going to be slightly better to give our opponent an opportunity to spoo rather than, and on the turn, like even with a queen or king overcard, I wouldn't be that scared. I would then be more pot controlling, but if there are no overcards and he checks on the turn, I would be betting on the turn, and I'm thinking that on the turn, if we are betting, we are a lot more likely to get action from ace-high type of hands. And I'm thinking that we are getting ace-high type of hands to fold pretty often. Often if we are betting after the 3-bet we did.
But then you are hating your life if there's going to be an ace, king or queen on the turn. You never know what's going to happen next, and probably you just have to give up the hand. But jacks, they are always complicated hand to play. Always.
And yeah, as Calleon said, that it's really standard value 3-bet, but BBs versus button. Another reason to not if villain reg is opening like 25% on the button. I think even against 25% opening range from the button, I'd still think that ace-queen is going to be fine for value. And Corpistry says that Markus is having run of a lifetime. So could you, Corpistry, explain a bit more that what does the run of a lifetime means? Is he going to get huge trophies tonight?
Yeah, Markus Weiss, our moderator, so beware. He has some extra powers in his hands. Hopefully he can ship something huge and throw us a party, right? Because Riihimäki is such a nice place to be when there is good company. And
Corpusry, he cashed $5.1 hyper. And cashed, I hope that cashed means here like Markus Y shipped it, or... So did he win the whole thing or just cashed? If it's pretty sick, then I'm thinking that it's going to be a ship it.
I was talking the opposite. I thought that if it's like really...
Like pretty sick run, min cashed in a $5.1 hyper. Like a boss.
No, it's like a... It was sick. I had the nuts on the flop. The money went in, and then the turn came, and I was out. Kind of sick. Yeah, I told you! Just cashing! So I was having the correct tells these times. Awesome.
Yeah, it's like in Riihimäki, you can see that people are having a really positive outlook on life.
Yeah, like min cash. Whoop. But if it's like $5 hyper, the min cash is like $7-10.
Yeah.
Well,
it's probably not going to be enough for a Big Mac meal in Finland, so...
Actually, I was thinking about the burgers as well. What's the burger value in the hypers? Oh, wow.
But so Markus Y is a moderator, has been a moderator and has been with us since we started about a year ago. And he has been playing as a hobby. He's a father of multiple kids, and he has a job, and I think he still managed to win win 5 figures or close to 5 figures from poker last year.
Yeah, like he's playing
MTTs.
Yeah. But he's working hard and he has been taking advantage of the good advices on our forum, and clearly it's paying off. So good for him. For example, on the 888 poker, he has been shipping like multiple times. It's just crazy.
But I'm thinking still that if you are having an opportunity, that you would still be happy about min cashing in a hyper. That would be quite awesome. Like right now it's going to be, if you are playing an MTT night and you are min cashing something, you are like, just a min cash. Why, it's never going to be good goings for me. And table 4, mega stack possibilities. Yeah.
So would you like to clear out what the word abusing
And
the
now
bubble means?
Now it's going to be interesting because this guy has been so aggressive. So this is going to be a special play of a special play to just ship the pocket tens, and I'm thinking that there is a good opportunity in there to get calls from weakers when this guy seems to be completely out of his mind.
Yeah, if he's 3-betting like 35%, it's way too crazy. But on the table 4, there is a bubble going on.
And would you play Queen's Plus in the same way than in the tens hand? Queen's Plus, I would opt for a smaller 3-bet, but they are going to be a hand that's going to be... It's going to be a hand that's going to play better post flop. So there's a huge difference between like pocket tens and pocket kings in what we are going to see on the flop.
And sorry, I said there's a bubble going on, but there isn't. Miscalculation. Apologies. Almost bubble going on the table 4,
yeah,
but since you have a huge stack, it's possible to...
Abuse.
Yes.
And you could explain what the abuse is.
It's fun! When you have a huge stack, and there is middle stacks and small stacks, you can just use your stack as a weapon, and it's completely allowed to do so, and the more aggression you'll have, the better the outcome usually is. So you can put a lot of pressure to mid stacks because they are risking so much.
But it also requires that the mid stacks would know their situation. Like if the mid stacks are going to be recreational players, we can apply a lot less pressure on those guys. With antes, this is going to be something that's going to be really hard to play post-flop if you are min-raising. So we don't give our opponent a chance to realize his equity against us, but we are taking a line with... I would take that line with like most weak aces, most weak pocket pairs. But generally just shove against this guy, and there's practically nothing that he can do. And Schifosis says that damn those huge field MTTs on Poker Stars, just busted the storm bigger 11 and bigger 22. Yeah, in the MTTs it's going to be the bigger the field, usually the fishier the tournament will be. But there is also a problem that the bigger the field, the more variance there will be and the more a good player. And here with ace queen, when we haven't hit anything, it's going to be something that I don't think. And our opponent had queen jack, so well played for him.
Oh wow. But in a sense, I wouldn't be surprised if he had like double bet there, even though he didn't hit anything because he's so aggressive. So in a sense,
when he's having the bigger stack than us, it's going to also be...
Yeah, when you hit nothing at all, it's really hard to continue there.
But like in Poker Stars, if you like playing MTTs, my recommendation is to work your way up from 45 player, 90 player and 180 player. 80 player sit and goes, because then you can be a productive poker player and you can play a lot more professionally when the variance isn't so big as it would be in the, like when you are playing a lot of tournaments, you'll soon start to realize that even when you are playing the mega fields, you are not making money if you are not making the final tables. There will be a huge part of the prize pool that will be set aside to the final table and to the final three. And you can win a ton if you are in the final three and in the final table of a mega field. But then you should start calculating that, like, I think a good player will be twice as likely to get to the final table than a player that's an average player in the game. So if you are like having a 9,000 player game, so an average player would go to final table at one game of 9,000 games. I think a really good player would go at 1 every 4,500 games. And no, but there's 9 player tables, so there are 2,000 tables. So there's like 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 500 would be the final table for our hero. And probably he's going to win it like 1 in 3,000, but even with 1 in 3,000 chances, you'll need to play a ton of the games and you can still be losing money. Money in the short run, that feels like a long run, but the long run in Megafield MTTs, it's longer than you would expect.
Whoa. It's really hard to continue with anything after that explanation.
It's like I have misregistered to some tournaments. Sorry about that. So I'm having like on the other side of my screen, I'm having tables from a wrong structure, but I'm shipping them, so like I should be happy when I'm making money on the tables, but it's making the explanations really hard. And I have the side table of some more 50-50s, and I'm having like huge stacks on pretty much each of those as well, so I don't know. It feels like a good session tonight.
Good. Skyphosis, sorry to hear that you busted the storm. I have played that like maybe 3-4 times, and it has always been an accident. It's a good way to spend your FPP points by playing those satellites for the storm. But then you need to remember to unregister, and if you don't, it's going to be a nice surprise one Sunday evening when you're playing your normal sit and goes. Usually one table of sit and goes, and then there is one huge table with huge starting deck starting, and then you have no idea what's going on. And when you realize it's a Sunday storm, it's always a face palm. And you're
like going that I'm just going to finish my session in 15 minutes and then I'll do something else for a while, and then it's going to be oh no. And the worst case scenario for an MTT night will be that if you are having one MTT, if you are in the brink of dropping out of the MTT, that's going to be the worst possible option in my mind. Because if you are always in the brink of being out of the MTT, but always survive, and like you are always having something like 10 to 15 big blind stack, it's going to be really hard to add any games there.
Because you don't know if you're going to finish that really soon or when it's going to end. That's why it's...
This is an interesting situation. If this guy would be a reg, it would be a clear shove because our opponent can call with such a small range with these two guys. Outside the tables, I missed the profitable shove because I couldn't hit the bet button. And she's laughing.
No, I just remember that Rotman's addition to PokerStars software, that maybe button. Yeah, people from our summer meeting from last summer will know what I'm talking about.
Really nasty with pocket tens. I don't think that our opponent in general will be bluffing enough in there, so it's actually pretty weird. When we are opening UTG, there's a big stack open. I'm going to be quite unsure. Even our hand is great, but like in these games, there are practically no light opens from UTG and Chach, so I don't think that in these games there are also going to be light 3-bets against an UTG open.
Yeah, that was really hard one. Probably I would have folded because when you're happy about when you see the flop, only when you hit the set basically. Or then it's only small cards, but then you don't know if there's going to be a bigger pocket pair.
So I think that the guy's range is pretty well defined to be pretty crazy. But still it's going to be pretty hard. In here, 4 players behind us, and there are only like one equally sized stack, and all the other stack sizes are going to be way less than. And in here we can see the tourney adjusted big blinds, and if we are looking at this situation, we are having like 7.8 tourney adjusted big blinds.
And I think it's a good way to remember to always check everybody who's acting behind you. It's not only about your stack size, it's about everybody else's too. So even though you had like 20 big blinds in a hand, but if there's 4 players behind you and everybody else has less than 10 big blinds, then you don't even need to worry about raising if you just want to put your money in just shove. Even though you are having the big stack, but if everybody else is having a small one.
In this case, if our opponent would have been shoved from the small blind, I would be calling with King 5. I think now it's going to be a bit too weak.
Definitely, since he's not that active anyway. Yeah, Rotman really gave everything he could offer during that night. Special coaching from Turku, right?
And we can see in here that when we are playing these games, like I have a new database for tonight, and we are having like 200 hands on 4 opponents already. So it's going to be I think these games are a bit more reggy than I first thought, even the normal speed ones. And there are new regs in these games that weren't there like about 1 year ago.
And even though it's only $3.5 game, it's quite surprising.
Yeah, but you can see in these games, like in the $15 games, there was the Hemuk was here that plays also $3.5 games. So I think if you are only wanting to play normal speed games, you need to go pretty wide with your game selection, and you need to go pretty wide for your range of buy-ins. So practically in these games, if we are wanting to see higher buy-in games, we'll need to go for turbos. Normal speed games are running pretty bad bad at 30s. I looked at the lobbies and I thought that when we are not getting the... We are not going to get the lobbies to run. In here... It's like usually I have a saying that if you are having only 10 times or less more than the opponent raising, then we can just shove. But with pocket jacks or something like pocket 8s to pocket 7s to, or let's say pocket 6s to pocket jacks, I might be going for a 3-bet with a 3-bet shove even with a larger stack size, because those hands are playing so badly post flop if we are just seeing the flop. So, and in that situation, for a player that would play general sit and goes, that call would look like, that's terrible call. He was the second biggest stack and he called off the biggest stack. But in 50-50s, there are going to be some non-linear effects of ICM, because it's going to be half just winner takes all and half it's about survival. So when we are having like 4,000 chip stacks colliding against each other's, when there is a short stack on the table, it's going to be better for him to call. It's going to be better for him to call off than if he would have like 1,000 chip stacks. And now there is less chances for abuse for us, and that's going to be nasty. So, like our game plan when Lampa got the big stack, our game plan changed completely. And our game plan changed completely because there's this Magister Yoda, and if we are just surviving, and there are like 2 opponents that are quite likely that they are out before us. If we are just surviving, we are getting like 3,000 chips worth of money. So that's what we are aiming for. So survival is worth about 3,000 chips, or 3,000 chips is worth 1 survival. So like Kaleon said, that from abuse to folding war, yeah. But if we would have gotten the big stack, we would have over tripled our buy-in in the game. And even when we are in the folding war, I think that we are still having some fold equity against our opponents.
What's your range in that situation?
I'm thinking that my range is going to be pretty tight. Like ace queen, ace jack suited. Something like pocket 6s, pocket 7s and up.
Sounds pretty reasonable.
Like we can't go... And there is like 2 regs. This Jan Fori Kroki, he's an Estonian reg, if I remember correctly. He's quite good at these games, so I can't go with a really wide range in that situation, because I think that I will get called. And in this situation, even if we had 2-4 or 2-3 off, we are going to call. Like pot odds are going to be too great, for sure. And in the jack's hand, as I said, that I would be mainly shoving. In that situation, I would be mainly shoving the medium to medium high strength pocket pairs, so like 6s to jacks, and pretty much with every other hand I think we can find a better option to play it.
Like 3-betting.
3-betting small, flatting, folding. It's going to be about the equity, and there.
Oh crap.
Well, we are still not screwed, because if we are looking at the situation, this Magister Yoda is going to be all in before us. And now it's actually going to be a really nasty situation for us.
Because the blinds are soon raising too.
And 25 antes in 1 minute. Actually, I think that we are going to be all in before this Magister Yoda. But we are getting this guy to fold, and that's going to be really...
That's called non-all-in, all-in, guys. That's amazing.
Amazing
tool.
Result.
Yeah, amazing tool to have in your...
Actually, now I screwed it up here really badly against this Dayah CS. I screwed it up really badly. This is like giving chips to a guy that shoves every hand, and he can even be correct in shoving pretty much every hand.
Well, that's something you need to keep in mind, that even though you have like really good hand, if it's not top hand and there's really good aggressive player with a huge stack, you know that if he's 3-betting basically every single hand against you and there's like a really small stack, just fold.
Or go for shoves.
Yeah.
It's then going to remove the option for him to be aggressive. And of course then we can also abuse the tendency to shove with practically every hand by going wider or inducing wider, something like pocket tens, ace king, ace queen. I think ace queen is going to be the weakest hand that we can induce.
Yeah, I think it's good to mark that hand. Then we can look at it afterwards.
Yeah, ace queen or ace jack suited. I don't think ace jack off is going to be.
I wouldn't go for ace jack.
But it's like, it's stupid and it's like shoveling money to our opponents by going...
Sorry, Kauris. He's bad. There is always danger when you are using headphones.
The calculations. We are really screwed in this situation.
Unfortunately.
Like there's 1/3 of our stacking already in play. We are going to be the first one all in this table with this stack configuration. I think that this is going to be a shove, and we are happy that we are ahead. And this is like the queen 8 off is going to be better than an average hand there, and that's what we are not even looking at better than average hand because the pot odds are going to be so low. And in that situation, if we would have like the opponent would be all in this orbit, it would change everything. But when our opponent is not all in this orbit, it's going to be a lot harder for us to carry on.
Tough spot anyway. Not cool, but sometimes you just need to look into the whole situation, the next rounds, and try to think that who is going to be the next one, probably all in.
And in this situation we can see that if we are opening about 10 of these 50-50s, the normal speed games are going to take about an hour. But the average length of the game is about 40 minutes, I think. So if you are continually running these games, if you are playing 4 tables, you can expect to play about 6 to 8 games an hour. And Callinan asked that would you tend to give any weight in the fact that William was win raising in Queen 8 hands with about 7 big blind effectives? I will give some weight to it. It's actually pretty weird, and I think it's going to be pretty hard for our opponent to balance. So there will be opponents that are going to try to add some fold equity by min raising in spots that most people are trapping. And if we would have seen a trap there, it's going to be a situation where you need to have a note on that. Like if we would have seen ace king or ace queen or a really good hand in that spot, then we need to make a note and play better against him the next time we see him. But there are people that are trapping, and then there are people that are taking advantage. That generally people are trapping when they are doing something like that with that kind of effective stack sizes. When this guy isn't, if a guy has a big stack and he would have perfect opportunity to 3-bet really aggressively, but he doesn't, then you can play like you could play when there isn't a big stack behind you. Because if there is a stack that can be a weapon, but there's a kind-hearted spirit that wants to give money away and not use the weapon, then it's going to be just too profitable to abuse the situation. And this actually puts a lot of pressure against these guys as well, that we are min-raising when there is an opponent that's having a huge stack.
Because they might think that you must have a really good hand because you dare to do that.
Yeah, and we are just getting so good hands, like 3 hands in a row.
But that's what they say, that third and fourth hand is never a weak one.
We are like getting about 35% chip odds, and I think it's going to be something like 42% we would need against an opponent's range. And with King Queen suited, I think we get it because there needs to be a lot of pocket pairs in his range as well.
And one good trick is to use that info instead of chat, because then you'll get to see all the time that what's the situation, how many players there are, at least if you are multi-tabling and you have a screen full of tables and there is people missing from different spots, it might be hard for you to realize that when there are 7 or 6 players. And it makes a huge difference if it's a bubble or if it's not a bubble.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think in like 9-max sit and goes, it's a lot easier to find out when it's in the bubble when you see only 4 people. But I find it harder to calculate, like there are 6 people on the table right now when it's not that easy to see, in my opinion.
And if you haven't played a huge amount of these games, in a time you'll get used to that, but I made a mistake earlier, and clearly I haven't been playing these for a while. So just use every advantage you can, and if it's free info and it's there for you, it's only one click away, and then you don't get tilted or distracted by the chat, why not?
It's going to be interesting. I think this Plum and Petro guy is having a really good hand right now.
He must have a really strong hand to dare to do that.
And he was raising to 2.5x and folding to a 9BB shove. That's going to be noteworthy.
So Callan is asking what I'm playing. At the moment I'm playing some sit and goes, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to play in the future. I played some MTTs sit and goes before Christmas. In November, December, I really liked those. And before that I played hypers, but then the Spinnet Goes game and they killed the hypers. I had to look for another game, and then at the really end of the year I had to collect enough points, so then I played the Spin and Goes. Probably going to stick with that for a while, but we'll see.
Actually, Spinnet Goes are pretty interesting right now. I must say that I was already making calculations on when they published the $60 Spinnet Goes, that how much would it require to go for Supernova Elite with Spinnet Goes.
Actually, there's quite a few spin and go regs at the moment, and now when they announced that new level of $60, I think there's going to be even more, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think like at this moment we are going to take a break. Then we are going to be back for some 50-50 turbo action, and then we are looking through the hands we have played and we have marked for today.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
See you then.